Hi everyone. So today I'm going to be doing my case presentation on The Body Keeps the Score, Chapter 10, which was called Developmental Trauma, the Hidden Epidemic. I'm going to cover main points from the chapter and present in this presentation. So it starts off talking about developmental trauma. The brain is sculpted by our past experiences, meaning that early maltreatment has early effects on brain development. So this can occur while a female is pregnant and the child is still in the womb. So things that occurs during a pregnancy can affect brain development. The connection from a child and a mother in the first years of life are critical to development. So this goes to the discussion on attachment and how the relationship between the mother or the parental figure in a child in the early stages can play a part on personality traits and behavior later in life and how they adjust to situations. The chapter also discussed about the idea of a bad gene. So when it comes to psychiatric illnesses, so research has failed to find any consistent genetic pattern for any psychiatric illnesses. Genes work together to influence a single outcome. Genes are not fixed. So the chapter mentions that life events can trigger biochemical messages to the body. So when this happens, it can either turn signals on or off, which makes these messages more or less sensitive from the body. The power of a diagnosis. So, the part of this chapter that I found the most interesting was the discussion on misdiagnosis and how it can harm the client. So, this chapter mainly focused on children, but I feel that it could go across boards. So it says children fail to meet diagnosis for PTSD because they shut down and interacting with people and become suspicious or angry. So it's a lot to this. I feel that sometimes in interacting with anyone who has experience of trauma, at any point they could be very anxious or become angry during a setting if they feel like they're being attacked, or any of these symptoms can mirror another diagnosis. So oftentimes we're misdiagnosing based off of the presenting information as opposed to looking to the at the whole picture. So the book, when talking about PTSD, it is saying that it's when a person is exposed to a horrendous event that involves the actual or threatened death or a serious injury to self or others, causing intense fear, helplessness, or horror. Um, the symptoms include re experiencing the event that can be in flashbacks or dreams, avoidance of people, places, thoughts, or feelings, sleep disturbances, headaches, inability to focus on tasks, and hyperarousal. Next, the chapter talks about how relationships shape development. So, this partly goes into that parent child interaction and how critical it is to behavior and personality traits. So, the chapter notes that parent child interactions play a significant part on development. Children who receive consistent caregiving are well regulated, whereas erratic parents are likely to have children who are chronically psychologically aroused. Children of unpredicted parents often seek attention and become intensely frustrated over small challenges. Early parental neglect, harsh treatment, can lead to behavior problems in school, problems with peers, and lack of empathy. The chapter also discussed long-term effects of incest. So it mentions that the body adjusts to chronic trauma. So even though a person matures and they grow older, the body never forgets the trauma that occurs. And sometimes one of the symptoms could be numbing. This causes the individual to no longer react to distress. One of the harmful things about this is that when this does happen in an individual, they can then be experienced in episodes, but because their body is not responding to it outwardly, that a person may not know that they're going through different things. Sexually abused girls mature at a higher rate due to increased sex hormones. Um, so it says that, I'm sorry, I lost my place, but I'll get back to this. These individuals have higher high school dropout rates, major illnesses and healthcare utilization, earlier onset of puberty, and psychiatric diagnosis. So, in moving forward, a few of the issues with the DSM. So, I found this quote from the book. It says, "When there is no relationship between a diagnosis and a cure, a mislabeled patient is bound to be a mistreated patient." So, I just thought this was it just stood out to me because although when looking through the DSM and looking at the criteria, we can easily diagnose a patient, but if it's not accurate and is other factors involved and we misdiagnose, we're only setting the patient up for failure. It was the study noted in the chapter that quality early childhood programs that involve parents are very beneficial. So the studies tracked children from when they were a child to when they were adults. So the follow-up study showed that children were healthier, less likely to have reported abuse, finished school, stayed out of jail, and had high-paying jobs. So for my case study, as I previously discussed in class, that I'm working at the Philadelphia VA for my field placement. I'm working in a polytrauma unit with people who have experienced trauma to any form of the body, and they also have a traumatic brain injury. So, for my case study, I have a 34-year-old African American male. He's been in service for 13 years and was honorably discharged in December 2014. He experienced two traumatic brain injuries, one where he ended up being unconscious for a few minutes and then he woke up. Um, at that time, he was admitted to the hospital and then later discharged. And another was due from a blast while deployed. He was diagnosed with PTSD, depression, and cognitive disorder. He has had several suicidal attempts. One where it was, I believe both times was due to him consuming a lot of different pills. Some of his symptoms include short term memory, difficulty staying on task, irritability in crowded places, decreased motivation, headaches, sleep difficulty, dizziness, loss of balance, blurry vision, a hypersensitivity to sound. So, although all of these symptoms is kind of related to PTSD, one of the things that if he didn't have access to resources has that are related to the traumatic brain injury, I feel that it wouldn't be as his recovery wouldn't be as beneficial as it possibly could be. So for him, his recommendations for the client include him to engage with the mental health clinic and traumatic brain injury for supportive services. With the TBI, he'll have access to speech and occupational therapy. The purpose is to increase auditory attention, strategies for organization, planning, and problem solving skills. Continue with psychiatric treatment and individual treatment. So throughout this course of time, we'll just be assisting the client in my role with social work doing case management, just making sure that he's not running into any obstacles as far as his treatment, that he has open lines of communication with his care team, And then any resources outside, like as far as support for maybe housing, financial instability, uh, family, anything, we would just assist him at that time. And that's it. Thank you.